We're here at the famous Gerry's of Soho. Alan, is it actually called Gerry's of Soho? Because that's what I call it.
Gerry's Wines and Spirits. You call
Gerry's
it
Wines and Spirits.
Call it whatever you want.
Well, when we launched our Old Bakery Gin, Alan has been a perfect sounding board, helped us from day one, assisted us with fantastic advice, and from that, obviously, our gin brand has grown, and that's largely...
Well, to be honest, when you came to fit my boiler, I didn't tell you how to do that. But, when you're talking about drinks, you needed a helping hand.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And as we've known you for so many years, as one of our customers and a good friend, why wouldn't we help you?
Yeah, well, that was appreciated. That's the whole point of our whiskey. So when we launched our whiskey, we wanted a good excuse to launch it rather than just saying we've made a whiskey. So because of that, Alan's face is on our whiskey. It's a tribute to Alan to say thank you from us, the plumbers. And we have Colin, and Colin, you introduce yourself.
Well, I'm very lucky to know this gentleman. My name is Colin Dunn. For my sins, I'm called a Whisky Ambassador, and I look after around about 170, 180 different expressions of whiskey for a company called Diageo. And I met this young man at many a whiskey festival, and we've stayed friends ever since. And I've watched with complete interest the growth of how something so small with a recipe that became a gin that was sold in bars and clubs and restaurants around the UK. But he's gone and taken it a step further.
So the whole purpose of being at Gerry's today is for these guys to talk, and not me, and really to talk about the growth of English whiskey. Over to you, Alan. How would you describe the growth?
Do you know what? The thing that's always surprised me about English whiskey, Colin, hopefully you can answer this, is for years and years I've been selling Scotch whiskey, and unless it said it was 8 years or 10 years, I was not interested. Because my customers wanted, if they want a single malt,
statement.
they want it 8 years, they want it 10 years, they want it 12 years. The older the better. English whiskey now has been coming along for the last 5-6 years. I mean, it's been going a little bit longer than that, but the real growth has been the last 4 or 5 years. Yes. And we're getting whiskies which are just over the 3-year threshold, and they're ready to drink. So good. I was thinking, the one thing I was thinking to myself was maybe because they're smaller companies, they don't invest in the big machinery, so it's all sort of handcrafted. I mean, are there any other reasons why the whiskey is so good at so young?
Well, at the end of it, every whiskey that is produced is at the court of public opinion. The public will make their mind up whether they think they like it or they don't. And when it comes down to what's happening in England at the moment, whether you're in Yorkshire with the Spirit of Yorkshire making whiskey, St George's distillery, even down in my part of the world in Cornwall, you have Cornish whiskey. Now, that doesn't get to say that it's all going to taste absolutely perfect. These are ongoing organic distilleries that are creating new flavours through aging, that in the future, who knows what these will be like in 4, 5, 6 years, but they're hitting the sweet spot at a very young age. And that is the most incredible thing. As you rightly said, Alan, until a few years ago, anything that was young was considered not to be matured enough. In the same vein, I've tasted whiskey up to 50 years old with a big price tag, and the whiskies are over the hill. They've been in the wood too long. Just because it has a 50 on the bottle as a number doesn't mean it's any good. I'm 67. I was much better when I was 23.
That's true.
So there's a changing, there's a change, there's a mood happening in whiskey, and from across the world. And I'm so pleased to see English whiskies in the hands of individuals jumping on that carousel and starting a new journey for new whiskey drinkers.
Yeah, because I mean, lots of everyone's looking for the sweet spot, the new aging, what you're going to age it in, what sort of casks and everything.
Yeah.
And the English guys have done some really interesting stuff. And as I say, with a younger whiskey, I'm just blown away. Obviously, not all of them work. I get that, but the majority, most of the things I've tasted, really, really like.
Can I ask? But why are the younger whiskies hitting that sweet spot so young?
For me personally, I think the cask is all important. Cask selection with your new make spirit has to be right on the button. I know in my company it's like the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
If you can have the right spirit and you put it into the wrong casks,
It's over.
good night, Irene. It's all
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
So you definitely need, and certain distilleries like Chichibu in Japan, Bimba in North London, Old Bakery, yourself,
Sure.
you have to make sure that you're getting the right cask. It's considered that between 60 and 80% of whiskies maturity get their flavour from the cask. So I think the answer to your question, if I go back 20 years, 30 years, there was no cask selection. Put it in a barrel, age
See what
it,
happens.
sell it, and it would be like the weather. Some days it will be fantastic, and other days it ain't. There's nothing shaking but the leaves on the trees. But now, choosing the right casks to mature your new make spirit, so it develops quicker, and finally, putting it maybe into a quarter cask, into a smaller cask where there's only 100, 150 litres. Smaller the cask, the faster the maturation.
The more contact. And someone did say to me, and I'm not sure what I think about this, but I was talking about Scottish whisky and English whisky, and if you think of American whisky, so bourbon stuff, you see them, they can be aged for 2 years. Generally they're aged for 3-4 years, and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And the climate in England is slightly less harsh than it is in Scotland.
Yeah.
So would that have an effect on it?
Quite possibly. I mean, I get asked time and time and time again about what makes whiskies different, and in fact, there's a multitude of answers. It could be down to the fermentation time. It could be down to the distillation time. It could be down to the middle cut. It could be to the kind of grain that you're using. It could be down to the quality of casks, and it could be down to how long it is maturating for. Ultimately, the person who makes a decision